Welcome to your in-depth monthly forecast for March 2026. I'm going to give you an overview of the big themes of the month to begin with. Then on screen, the event chart, I'll unpack that because that's always influential for the entire period. I'll then go through each of the influences frame by frame to give you a clear picture of what you can expect around relationships, money, your professional situation and energy. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. A very warm welcome. Now, you are ruled by the moon, so therefore lunations are particularly powerful for you. And on the 3rd, we have a total lunar eclipse. But for you, it's in the chatty 3rd house and in the dry, rather logical sign of Virgo. But the opposition to the energy in the sign of Pisces, this is very much about escapism. It may be that you're in the mood to actually free yourself from something, and how you think about it might benefit from using some of that more logical approach that the Virgo moon can provide. However, the solar eclipse on the 19th is a fabulous opportunity for you to be much more spontaneous and perhaps liberate yourself from something that hasn't really been working. But this is a month when we also have Jupiter go direct in your sign on the 11th. Great news. Mercury is retrograde through to the 20th. So if you are heading off anywhere or talking things through on a contractual matter, the details will be critical. But on the 20th, we also have the vernal equinox, the start of the astrological new year, and your connection to the world really could come very much into focus, particularly in the last 10 days. But that even could start manifesting itself once Venus arrives in Aries on the 6th. On the screen now is your event chart at the start of the month. As ever, we need to be mindful of the ruler of your ruler, the moon, and it's in the glamorous, charismatic Leo, but it is directly opposite Pluto. When it comes to who does or contributes what in close relationships, there could be some pretty intense energies that are a backdrop for the whole of this month. If you're drawn to someone in a rather mesmeric way, it may be because there is an inherent sexual chemistry that's being pushed to the fore. But just ask yourself, with the moon in the 2nd house, does that match with your values? The other big takeout at the start of the month is that Mars is in a square with Uranus. This is a repetition of an aspect that first occurred when Uranus initially moved into Uranus in May 2018. Uranus in Taurus is not a great fit. We have seen a lot of turbulence around the cost of living, cost of commodities, different ways of using financial services and systems. And of course, we have also seen some wars. And because the sign of Taurus can be about land, but the 8th house for you of Mars can be about where you're very attracted to someone. It can be that mesmeric energy that comes with that Pluto moon opposition at the start of the month. So you might find someone in your friendship group very, very alluring, but whether it would be good or not is another matter. The other way that that aspect can play out for you this month is you may want to free yourself from something that just seems too heavy, the energy around it too leaden, maybe there's too much politics, maybe it is to do with your longer term future. You may be reviewing it and asking yourself whether the money you get at the moment is a fair exchange for what feeds your soul. But do you know, ironically, on the 2nd, Mars moves into your sister water sign of Pisces. Not his best location, it's true, but for you, that is very much about having the determination to be more adventurous, more independent. And if you did decide to plan a holiday, and particularly to near water, the seaside, a river, go on some spa days, you really be getting that energy in a very positive way. But also Venus in the sign of Pisces, which is exalted, forges a very positive link with Uranus at the start of this month. So the need for a change and to do something off the cuff can be for a good reason. It doesn't mean to say that you're wanting to escape dramas and politics. But I think because the sun, as it moves forwards into this new month, does link very providentially to Jupiter in your sign, and therefore is threaded through the lunar eclipse on the 3rd. If you are wanting to take more charge of what works for you as an individual, particularly now that Saturn and Neptune are back in your work sector, if you're doing something that just isn't very enjoyable, that desire to do something that's more soul-led, freer, more independent is really going to be calling out to you. But what about that total lunar eclipse? Well, over the last couple of years, we've had the eclipse series between Virgo and Pisces. And for you, it is about those communications. And the communications of that lunar eclipse, as I mentioned before, can be a bit drier. And maybe you will have some voices around you, people in your everyday world, who don't necessarily agree with some of the ideas that you may be manifesting. And some of those ideas may be around doing something very different. But with Mercury in a retrograde through to the 20th, it is important to use that Virgoan eclipse energy to make sure that you are very clear on the facts, because Pisces energy is very shape shifting. It's very alluring in a way, and it can be very inspirational, but it's not always easy to really get into the more factual and functional side of life. So I actually think that it could be a big conversation you're going to have with yourself or people around you around your values, your ideals, how you're expressing yourself, and whether that's working for you or not. And if it isn't, as Venus, the planet of money, moves to the top of your chart on the 6th, if it's a job you're not enjoying and Venus meets with Saturn on the 8th and the 9th, that's going to be a very important day for you. Jupiter going direct on the 11th can also free you up a little bit. If you feel you have been treading water somewhat, things can start to gain traction. You do need to have a discussion with someone, an important discussion, and you need to put your point of view across in a very constructive way. The 15th is a good day. Mercury's combining with Mars, and the assertion of Mars and the passion can combine with the message of Mercury despite the retrograde. And do remember that Mercury retrograde can see us rethink in a constructive way. It's not always about technology going wrong, travel plans being blocked or delayed. So I feel that Venus moving is going to be quite pivotal, Jupiter going direct. And that brings us to that new moon of the 19th, because it does engage with Uranus in such a constructive way. And apart from the 4 months of last year, Uranus has pushed you to be more radical generally since March 2019, shaking up your friendships, your interests, and your general direction of life. And if there is something that really is closing in on you over the following month, you may make a major decision. And that's going to really accelerate, not just because Mercury goes direct on the 20th, but because the Sun, the vernal equinox, returns to Aries, the start of Cardinal Quadrant 1, that then will be connecting to Saturn and Neptune for the first time for in our lifetimes in the case of Neptune, and the case of Saturn not for 29 and a half years. And that's really going to see you pausing and thinking very carefully about how you connect to the wider world. If it is in a way that enables you to be creative, passionate, fluid, and demonstrate that soul energy, you're really going to be content if it gives you solid rewards in a more material way. If it's a lot of the material route and not a lot of the enjoyment, that connection between the Sun, Saturn, and Neptune is really going to be telling towards the end of this month. And because also on the 24th, the Sun is going to be angling to Pluto in a transformational way, uh, maybe it will be a time that you'll release something as much as dive into something. It just depends on your unique circumstances. Now, on the very final couple of days of the month, the 30th, Venus moves into the sign of Taurus, where she loves to be because that's one of the two signs she rules. And that fraternity, which has become so important with Uranus, is present over the last 7 years, to be with people you see as authentic, genuine, perhaps a bit edgy, maybe people who are not quite so mainstream. that may be something that you think about in all strands of your situation. So, just to summarize, Cancer, when it comes to your love life, I feel the lovely link between Venus and Uranus at the start of this month could lead to some kind of uh, lovely spark. And that could be very uplifting, but it could be around friendships where someone new takes on a greater importance. But if you are involved in anything heavy that's bogged down, has control around it, I feel Mars moving from Aquarius into Pisces early in the month, it's going to give you a lot of desire to liberate yourself from that. And because we do have uh, such a lot of energy fermenting in the ninth house, your love of travel, higher education, a more philosophical take of life, teaching and training can all call out to you. And if your professional situation does seem heavy and doesn't really give you an opportunity to express yourself, there may be a big rethink by the end of this month. But when it comes to your relationships, I feel that if someone is really committed, as early as the 8th or the 9th, you could decide to go all in. If they're not, it could be the end of the tie. So very much a polarity there. But by the end of the month, a much more sociable opportunity can start to develop with Venus moving into Taurus. Please check out your Saturn video for the next 2 years by clicking on the link within this video. Also, please visit us at our new website by clicking on the second screen, which will take you right through. If you'd like to review one-to-one, please check out my testimonials below. You can also order your personal forecast either in natal or draconic format. If you order the natal package, there's 50% off. Please apply Astro 26 at the checkout. If you want draconic, your soul karmic package, there's 50% off. Please apply Draco 26 at the checkout. Both provide searing insights, great value, very accurate, and totally unique to you.